Hi friends, we are in Substance now and we will load our two files that we made in Blender. So select File, New Project, and you will get to select a template. The default one is good, ASM. Select the low version .fbx, and then you've got the document resolution, which is the texture resolution. So choose between 2K or 4K if your machine can do it, and then go to Auto Unwrap and check this. You can go in the options and change these parameters if you already have UV maps, but we are going to recompute all. And then you've got these optimization option. I deselect create fewer sims because it's great for robots or machines, but for humanoids creatures, it's not really great. And we are waiting for the UV unbaking. And when it's done, you've got your model. This is the low version. So as expected, it's a bit ugly, but we're going to improve that. So select Mode Bake Mesh Maps. And we can see our model on the right, and you've got all these parameters on the left. They are the texture that we are going to bake. Curvature, position, thickness, normal, ambient occlusion. And you've got to select the output size. So select the biggest one, the biggest you can do. If it's too much for your machine, lower this setting, but you want to go with the biggest value. For me, it's 8K. And we're going to select the high poly mesh in the high poly parameter window. There. Now you'll see the high poly mesh around the first one. And you can check if there is any error, by default in red. I don't see any error, just there on the knee, right knee. But I think that's going to be all right for this one. What you want is that the mesh, the high poly mesh, totally envelop the lower poly mesh. So you could adjust the max frontal distance and increase the coverage. I really think that's going to be great there. Got some other parameters you could play with, but basically if you did a good job in Blender, it's going to be fine here. Also, you'd want the lowest value for the max frontal distance, so make it tight around the mesh. And that will allow the baking of the textures, the good baking. Yeah, I think it's going to do. When you're ready, just select Bake, selected textures, and you can see in the view if everything is going to be all right. You can see the UV islands being covered by different textures. And this is where you can spot problems, issues. The ambient occlusion, this one, is pretty great to check if there is going to be any problem later. Seems good to me. So just wait for it to finish. Could take some time depending on your machine, depending on the output size you selected. But soon enough, we're going to have our really pretty mesh. Oh, there, it's finished for me. So just click on Return to Painting Mode when it's done. There. I want to talk to you about the navigation controls and the project configuration. So select Edit, Settings, and you've got the Shortcuts tab. I want to show you that you can edit these shortcuts, and that's what I did because I work with a pen tablet, and I found some shortcuts could be made better for my use. I'll share it to you just later. On the right, you've got display settings, and we're going to change the camera settings. So you could change the light rotation, the light hitting your model. What I do is basically when you open the project, it's set on the world alignment. So you could adjust the exposure, the rotation if you'd like. But what I like to do is set it to camera. I'll show you. You got lots of parameters in this window, but as you can see, the shadows are hitting the back of our model because it's set to be aligned with the world, and you've got shadows on the back of your model. If you select camera, you can see there is a small amount of light always in front of our model, and that's why I like to paint in camera alignment. So let's remove these hard shadows and go through the other tabs of Substance. Close the display settings and go to the Asset tab. You'll find some materials, generators, whatever. In this section, I've got some 3 smart materials that I made. I will share them in the description, and you will find other materials, either stock assets or community assets. Then move to Layer Mask, Layers tab, sorry. There are all the paints, and you've got the Properties tab, really useful. Then the Texture and Settings tab, it's not really useful. And you've got the material list there on top. Go into the Layer tab, select Add Fill Layer, right-click, and select Add Generator. Select it, go to Property, Generator, and then UV Checker. And these are your seams and UV islands, so you could check if they are elongated and well done. Now I want to walk through my process for painting, where I create a number of layers and add black masks. So how do I do that? First select Add Fill Layer, and we are going to add a black mask. Yep. Then select right-click, Add Generator, and select the paint, property of paint, and we're going to select a visible color. The black mask hide the color. If I toggle on and off the black mask, I can hide or show the paint, like so. So black masks are used to hide a color. I'm doing another fill layer with another color. Let's make it green, greenish, and you've got a lot of parameters in the paint tab. First, we've got color, height, rough, metal, and normal, and then you've got some UV transformation that we don't really use apart from some smart materials. In the material, you can deselect height, we don't use that. Rough and metal we use for metals, and normal we don't use really. Some smart materials create some normal, and that's good. Roughness, as you can see, when it's set to 1, it's pretty rough, and when it's set to 0, it's pretty glossy. Metallic, when it's towards 1, it's pretty metallic. I'm just going to deselect that and focus on the color only, because I just want to add a tint to my material. I'm going to create another black mask. And if I toggle it again, I can hide it or show the color. I'm going to add a generator, right-click, Add Generator, in the Property tab, Generator, and then I'm going to select one of these. We'll be choosing Curvature. And you can see the color is visible because the generator created white paint on the black mask according to an algorithm. And I can change these parameters the balance, it's how much you want. The contrast, it's less blurry, more sharp, and the blur, you get some shades. It fades away. To adjust these, basically I do a small amount of blur and a bit higher of contrast and adjust the balance. I'm going to create another color. Deselect all these, select a brighter color, or no, not brighter, darker color, going to be my base. As you can see, I've got two colors on top, and the green one is sharpening my darkest color. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, you've got already some vibe, some feeling that it is right. The sharp edges are going to be brighter. I'm going to put all these in a folder. Yes. Rename that to green wash. And that's basically a group layer that I use to paint a specific color. Now in the Asset tab, I'm going to choose my own smart material, the slapchop one, paste it onto my model, and you can see there are some highlights and shadows in this material. So I'm going to drag it below and set my green wash to multiply at 95%. And there, we've got a really dark and bright contrast. I'm going to set my base color to red or purple, whatever you want. Sometimes it changes the feel, the global feel of the shadows. Sometimes you've got to adjust the color a bit because the slapchop material is really dark. It darkens a lot the colors. So adjust that. And there, not so bad. Now I'm going to drag my first layer, the red one, above all these. Toggle it on, and you can't see a color because it's under the black mask. So select the black mask, and you've got your brush in white that will create color. So I'm doing the eye there, just painting the eye. I'm going to set it to lighten, a smaller opacity, and this is how you can bypass the multiply effect on the green wash. If I drag it into the folder, you can see it's going to be faded. And this is how I do normal eyes for malefic creatures. And there in the asset library, you can see there are some other materials I created, and the wash layer and the metal wash layer are just the same as the group I just made for you. You can see on the metal wash layer, I don't have a black mask because I like to adjust the color just before I set the black mask. For example, for a golden one there. When it's done, I create a black mask. And the wash layer is basically the same as the green wash. It's just the same. But when I create a new color, I just drag a new wash layer, change the color, and that's it. Usually I create a folder for all the wash layers, put them all into a normal transparency, and the folder to multiply transparency, set to 95. There. This is the structure of my pens in Substance. So these materials I'll be sharing with you in the description below the video, so don't you worry about that. And now to paint a new color, just create a black mask and paint with the brush set in white color. There. You can see the brightest color is on the edges of the mesh because of the generator. If I want to add another color on top, I can just drag a new fill layer, select a color brighter or darker, deselect all these textures and just focus on the color and paint with the white brush on a black mask. There. Really adds to it now. You can adjust the curvature if you want, like so. Got a lot of adjustment to do when painting, but as it's non-destructive, the fill layer, it's pretty great because you can change the color, you can change the generator parameters on the go. And the key word there is non-destructive. A black mask is non-destructive, opposed to a paint layer. You don't want a paint layer, you want a fill layer. I'll demonstrate that in the properties of the brush. You can set it to grayscale and erase the paint just by choosing a black color. You can do it with the eraser as well, but it's destructive. So choose paint, set it to white or black, and that will add or remove the paint. There, I'm painting, now black, up, erasing. It's great to be able to do that, but it's a bit cumbersome with the properties tab. So what you could do is just use the shortcut X, which switch between black and white, like so. Now if you press C, which is just beside the X, you will be changing the texture view, so reset it on material in the top right corner. Now I'm returning to my slapchop material, deleting everything, and you can see I change the color of the base paint. Now let's talk about two great tools, which are your hands. You will need them for the navigation in Substance. So first, with the mouse, if you press right-click, can rotate the view. And again, these are more parameters, so make sure you have the same. Alt and right-click is move the mesh. So these two are really important, move and rotate the mesh. And they will be the same for my pen tablet. And with the wheel, you can zoom in and out. The three moves will be very handy when navigating the mesh, when painting, and don't lose hope. It's going to be all right. You're going to master it. It's going to take time, but you're going to get it. Next, I'm going to create a small layer of color like we did previously, and I'm going to demonstrate the brush adjustments. So create a new fill layer, a red one, add a black mask so you don't see the color, and then I'm going to show you how to paint. So you need to select the black mask in order to see the brush. If you select only the paint object, you won't see a brush on your cursor. Select the black mask and then just press your left click, paint. There. If you want to change the size of your brush, you can go on the top left corner, adjust the size, and you could also change the opacity or the flow. Now for the opacity, it's the transparency of the paint, and the flow, it's how much paint you're going to add with your brush stroke. If you're using a pen tool, you can adjust the pressure with the pressure option, which you can select or deselect. And finally, you've got the spacing and the distance options. For the spacing, it's pretty easy. So if I increase the value of the spacing and I paint in a single movement, you see I'm painting dots or dashes. So basically I just set it to the minimum, which is 5. So reset flow and opacity to 100 and the size as you want it to be. And as you can see, it's also cumbersome, so I've got a shortcut for that. So for the brush size, press Ctrl, right click and slide your mouse to the left or right. And that will increase or decrease your brush tool. This is the biggest one, biggest shortcut you've got to remember along the hardness, which is coming. But first, the flow shortcut. So for this, it's going to be Control, left click, and slide left or right. As you can see, my flow is moving, increasing or decreasing. And I like it better than the opacity because you can keep your opacity at 100 and shade your color. And then we've got the hardness. It's Control, right click, and slide up and down. And can have really sharp edges or fading edges, like so. And that really helps to refine the paint, the brush strokes. It's going to be really precise. And that wraps up our navigation controls for the mouse. I know it's a lot, but you'll be fine. Okay, let me grab my pen tablet. There. Now you need to configure your pen to have at least the right click on the pen. And I added the X key as well to switch between black and white easily. Remember, the press is like the left click on the pen. So the right click will be the rotate option. The Alt and right click will be the move. And Alt and press up or down will be zoom in and out. So get yourself comfortable with these shortcuts. Add the Control and slide up and down for the hardness. And Control and slide left and right for the brush size. As for the flow, I don't really use a shortcut. I just go there on top of the window and change the flow manually. And that's it. It's a lot to remember, but try it again and again and you'll get it. Next video will be painting our model finally. So I'll show you how I use colors, how I use different layers to get the whole mini painted. It has a lot to do with the black mask and generators. And if you already know how to paint in Substance, you can skip ahead and go see the details video in Substance where I show how to correct defaults and use different techniques and generators.